Welcome to Embrace the Spiritual Podcast. Join friends Michelle and Dawn as they share tips on how you too can open your heart, raise your vibration, and reclaim your sovereignty. Hear what they have experienced and overcome in their spiritual journeys while navigating this expansive spiritual multiverse. Discover how they transform their soul lessons from ordinary into extraordinary.
Follow, subscribe, and share Embrace the Spiritual Podcast on all streaming services, including YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Go to embracethespiritual.com for bonus content and a list of upcoming episodes. To book an aura regression, raw Reiki, or Akashic reading with Dawn, go to her website, alchemy-sacredsound.com. And to book an aura regression, raw Reiki, Akashic reading, or to do a home or pet clearing, visit Michelle on her website at energeticembrace.com.
Welcome back. We are talking about awakening the earth with this amazing book that I finished. It spoke to me on an emotional level, a spiritual level, a heart level. It talks about things that you are like, oh yeah, you know it, but you don't think about it. So it's bringing that heart and mind all together. It's called The Garden Awakening by Mary Reynolds. She is an Irish landscaper who won the Chelsea Flower Show. She was the youngest one who won it, and can't remember what year, but there's also a beautiful movie that you can watch on YouTube called Dare to be Wild. And it is her journey. And I'm getting chills about it. I feel like the earth is like, yes, speak my truth, because there is so much truth in this book about the earth that we're not even going to cover the whole thing. So she starts off in the first chapter. We are only brief guardians of these portions of land that we call our gardens. We do not and cannot truly own them. Our bodies are made of the earth and return to it eventually, but the land will always remain alive. Everything we need to survive and all that nourishes us comes from the earth, its soil, the atmosphere, the stars, and the sun. We are simply walking pieces of earth. How beautiful and how true, and how we have, I just feel like there's been a disrespect when it comes to the earth and how we look at gardening. We look at the gardening practices, the building of house practices, even the land practices that we do. We are just so, don't treat it sacredly. It is like, whatever, I'm human, I can do whatever I want. And that is not how we are supposed to be interacting with her at all. We need to ask permission when we are doing things. And, she has to give her blessing at all times, because if it is not for her highest good, she will make sure that she destroys what you have done to her, and destroy it she will. Think about landslides, earthquakes. Some of them are planned. Won't talk about that, but she does take care of the things that are not being treated sacredly. And we have certainly stepped back from treating her sacredly for a very, very long time.
It is so key. We shouldn't take ourselves for granted. We shouldn't take others for granted. So why are we taking the earth for granted? We are really part of her. We're not separate from Mother Earth, Gaia. We are an extension of her living in this human 3D vessel. The best saying that I saw recently is the fact that earth and heart are the same letters. They're spelled with the same letters. How profound and simple that is. Because if we don't show her love, how can we expect that to be given back to us? The earth helps nourish us through what we plant, through the trees giving us oxygen, by taking in our carbon dioxide, and we are completely taking her for granted. It is so sad. As Dawn said, she's showing us through these natural events that are happening where she's physically shedding what we've done to her. And I'm not talking about this inverted agenda about climate change. Like, let's take that off the table. If you are on that agenda, we'll talk about a couple things later that kind of help dispel that. Earth has its natural cycles, and those natural cycles take us through the ebb and flow of what we see Earth looking like. Whether you're talking ice age, mud floods, whatever the case is, Earth is always changing, just as we're always changing. And the fact that we are instilling onto Mother Earth what we feel is right for her, we're infringing on her own free will in the aspect of we don't want ourselves to be infringed upon and our free will to be abused or taken advantage of. But let's get back to asking Mother Earth what she wants. What does she need to heal? What would she like to see? And part of getting to that level of being able to communicate with the animals on the land itself, the trees. You hear about people talking to the animals. I talk to the animals in the trees. So does Dawn. It takes work to get to that level to be able to be calm in your mind and connect heart to heart. That's why heart and earth are the same letters, is because when we connect with Mother Earth on that heart level, we are truly connecting in on that love frequency and we're a matching vibration. And when we are still and listen, we can hear what she wants. And that is when magic is created.
And as you're speaking, the wind just blew like this huge gust. You can't make this stuff up. I want to read a little bit of a story that she talks about how she disrespected the earth. As I drove past a wood landscape corpse behind a dry stone wall that ran along the edge of the road, I noticed a small grassy knoll rising from the wood. Suddenly, I spotted an interesting twisted piece of decaying wood at the base of an old oak tree at the top of the knoll, and I screeched to a halt. I envisioned a perfect place for the wood in my garden. It would look beautiful as a quirky feature built into a small stone wall I was throwing together at the site. I tucked my van into the grass verge, climbed over the stone wall, and scrambled up the hill to a piece of a sculpture wood. As I lifted the wood and slung it on my shoulder, I remembered feeling a bit uneasy, as a child sometimes does when they are about to do something they know they shouldn't, but they do it anyway, and I shrugged it off. As I began walking down the hill, everything became quiet. It was a peculiar type of silence that felt heavy with judgment and displeasure. Ignoring it, I clambered back over the wall, placed the wood carefully in the back of the van, and jumped into the front seat. I turned the key and nothing happened. Literally, the land was like, nope, you're not going to have this. There's more that she goes on. You'll just have to buy the book and enjoy it. But it's so true. We do things without asking the land. We take, and I'm hearing we rob, we steal. You have to ask permission. And not always is permission going to be given to you. And that is because, for whatever reason, the land still was using this sacred, naughty, quirky wood for whatever it signified to the earth there. It needed it. And she chose to steal it. And boy, did the earth say, absolutely not. It is not yours. Give it back. How many times should we listen to things that are happening when we do things, when we use chemicals, when we take out our shovel when we don't need to? There is a whole entire gardening practice in this book where you do not have to even use a shovel to make a garden, where you're hurting the earth every time you get a backhoe out and till the garden. We have done this for centuries because we were told that it was the right way to do things. It is not. It is now time to step up into a higher vibration of gardening, of thinking of how we interact with the earth, because she wants it. She is willing people to find these books that speak for her and for us to bring forth the knowledge.
Mother Earth ultimately is a living, breathing being just like us, just like our pets. So when we don't treat her with that same respect of, wow, if she's a living, breathing entity, and I don't mean entity in a bad way, entity just means a collective of material, really, she is longing for us to connect to her. We have gotten disconnected by the concrete cities we live in. That's why we were drawn to move to a lake community, because we needed to get out of the city and that busyness and the chaos, because when you're living in that chaos, you're going to see chaos everywhere. So I love it when you hear these stories about people, going camping and getting back into nature. There's a reason why the smells of nature are different than being in the city, because the energy vibration of the earth's resonance, and you may or may not have heard of the Schumann resonance, that is ultimately the vibration of the earth. Getting back into nature in that perspective whether you have woods near you or you have to travel to it, make an effort to go do that. One of the things that I wanted to bring up that I think is really important when we're connecting with Mother Earth is that we need to work on ourselves first. And by that, I mean heal ourselves, work on those traumas, work on those things that maybe we don't currently love about ourselves. Because when we can get to being in that space of self-love and then go out in nature, you are more of a matching vibration to what the earth and those magical creatures that are out in the forest and in the lands across the earth. That self-love is that matching frequency. So if you go out into nature with that chaotic mind, with that chaotic energy, you're not going to enjoy it, let's face it. So be mindful of incorporating these techniques that we've been talking about over this last year of cleansing yourself. So before you go out into nature, cleanse yourself, clear yourself of those negative energy cords, and step into Mother Earth from that cleansed perspective. And she'll appreciate you for that. She's waiting for us to come. And when you do get out into nature, take your shoes off. We've said this over and over again because it's so important. Take off your shoes and connect to nature. I know as a kid, I always had my shoes off. I could run across rocks, didn't bother me. And nowadays, even for ourselves and kids, oh, put your shoes on. You don't want to hurt your feet. You don't want to step on something. Well, if you're not being mindful of where you're stepping because you have this false security of these rubber-soled shoes, then you're not connecting. It's not possible to connect. When you can connect with your feet. I mean, I didn't know as a kid that that's ultimately what I was doing, and I was just doing it naturally. Allow our kids to have that same exploration and be a kid yourself. Dawn talked about this in a previous episode about having that joy. So when you have that kid-like joy and you're out in nature, like I can just feel and see the trees like kind of swaying with that and that ebb and flow of energy exchange. Because when we are out in Mother Nature, yes, she's healing us, but we're also helping heal her. So you want to be mindful and respectful of that energy that you're exchanging with Mother Earth so that you're not just dumping your crap onto her to transmute. So just it's a respect. That's all it is.
Beautiful. Thank you for that reminder. And we're going to talk about healing. And what she recommends is walking the boundary of your property, because the land has a spiritual, emotional, and a physical body. And if you don't clear those negative emotions, it's going to always return to the negative emotions. So walk the border. I don't care if it's a postage stamp size lawn or if you have 100 acres. I personally, when I walk the land, I bury quartz crystal, black tourmaline. And I ask the trees to guard the property while I'm there, while I'm not there. They are the overseers. They stand the test of time longer than we do. They're in charge when I'm not there. And a lot of times you'll hear them say, I will do this for you. Thank you for asking me. I've been, because they're waiting. They're waiting to be talked to. They're waiting to be given a job. They're waiting to be interacted with. And a lot of times we just say, yep, that's a tree. That's a pine tree. That's an oak tree. There's a maple. And it gives them a sense of pride to know that you are aware that they have a consciousness. It's a beautiful give and take. Let's use our knowledge to an advantage that we have, that we can heal them mentally, physically, spiritually, so that we can in turn heal ourselves and turn it around. It is a give and take. And since they are connected by a fungus, it also radiates out from that space like hundreds of miles. In this book, she also talks about, that too. There is a beautiful book called Mycelium Running, where her friend talks about the healing of mushrooms and the land. So I ended up buying that too because it intrigued me. And I'm going to be using those fungus aspects in healing my land with the wood chips I'm going to be bringing in. And also it actually, I have a fungus that is affecting my trees and giving the peach trees it's not a rot, but it gives brown spots. It's got a specific name, but it is a predatory fungus. It's not a healing fungus. So there are always things that you can do. You just have to take the time and do the research and not go to the pesticides, the chemicals. You need to ask the angels, the tree spirits, the earth, help me find a solution, which is what I did because I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it. And these books were presented to me. And now that I have the tools going forward, I'm going to help them.
I love that you said about asking them to help you find that healing solution, because we forget, and maybe we don't know, that our body is literally made up of similar materials to the earth. Like we're living organisms, we're cells, the reproduction, but ultimately we are that part of her. And when we can connect ourselves with that healing energy of nature and ask for its healing, right? You're giving permission. I'm allowing you to help heal me. I'm asking you to help heal. Miracles can happen. I was on a trip last year in the Red Sea swimming with the spinner dolphins. It's always been a dream of mine. I've always had a connection to dolphins, and it never felt right to swim with the dolphins at these resorts where they kind of have maybe a couple dolphins in captivity. That didn't feel right to me. And in the Red Sea, these dolphins are wild. There's an actual reef that we were anchored at that's called, the nickname of it is Dolphin Reef, because the dolphins naturally come in. There's a couple pods of dolphins that'll come in. And when I say a couple pods, I'm not talking like 10 or 12. I'm talking 30 to 50 dolphins coming in that you're swimming with. It is amazing. I always knew that dolphins had that healing energy, and our bodies are made up of so much water. So what better way to connect with Mother Earth than be in the water, be in that natural state of water? It was so funny. We were there for a week, and something that's always given me an issue right from when I can remember being a child is being motion sickness. So whether, you go on a ride at an amusement park or in a vehicle, by all accounts, this is not a trip I should have been on. Going on a boat ride that's, I think it was 6 or 7 hours to get to this spot in the boat. You're on the ocean. We weren't on a big ship, so we were on a smaller boat that houses maybe 50 people, including the crew. So I was pretty rocky. I was in my bunk, laying down as best I could, going over the waves. It was not a pretty situation, but it was something that I knew I needed to go do and a place that I needed to be. It wasn't until a couple days in, like we went out in the water 3 times a day. I would have to take something for motion sickness before even going in the water. Like that's how much it affected me. After a couple days, the group that we were with, we were just talking about our experiences, and someone else had mentioned it. And when it came to my turn, I realized I haven't been motion sick at all in the water. And I didn't even realize. So it wasn't like this thing that I noticed right away. But when I was in the water, I asked the dolphins and the ocean, right? Because that's part of Mother Earth. I asked for any healing that it could provide. And I just left it as kind of a blanket because, I never thought to ask to heal my motion sickness. I just kind of put a blanket request out there. And I thought, there's that little part of me. Okay, am I just thinking that's what happened? But let me tell you, on the boat ride back, so when we went to this location, we went at night. So it was kind of natural. We were sleeping in our bunks. But going back, it was during the day. I was able to sit up on deck with the boat going through. And like I'm talking, when it's going over waves, you've got like the boat goes up, you're looking down at the water almost, right? Like it's pretty significant. I stayed up on the deck the whole trip, flying home, all of it. So you never know what can happen. And we've talked about this even in the last episode about being mindful of the expectations you put around it, because maybe some things aren't meant to be healed at this time. Maybe there's something else that you're not even remembering or aware of that is ready to be healed. So this is something, I'm talking 50 years, I'm slightly over that, but 50 years of motion sickness gone. So I call that a miracle. Absolutely, because that was something that significantly had an impact on my life and how I went about doing things. I usually drive because otherwise I get motion sickness. So I'd rather drive and be in control of the wheel. And Donna will attest to this when we went to Eureka Springs and she drove and it was windy roads. So this was pre going to swim with the dolphins for me. I actually drove because then I had control going around the bends, because otherwise, I don't necessarily physically get sick, but I get very lightheaded, headache, upset stomach. And compared to Nashville, Mind you, Nashville didn't really have the windy roads, but that was post swimming with the dolphins, and it was a completely different experience. So not saying Dawn's a crazy driver. I'm just that sensitive. So I'll put that out there. It's not that I was getting sick because of her driving. But
Well, there was that little, I mean, Eureka was like, I've never seen so many hairpin turns. Remember that one road? It was just like you go to the left and then you'd be going hard right. It was crazy.
It is crazy. And because it's all built around that kind of swampy, marshy area. So they kind of had to put roads in wherever. And, you know, the trees are so big there, it's not like you can look out and see the horizon to kind of anchor your eye. So yeah, it was wild. So powerful things can happen. I also did a lot of self-healing before that point. And I think that's what ultimately made the difference, because if I wouldn't have done that work in advance, I might not have been ready to have that release. So continue to do your work. You know, it's not just about raising your vibration and being more positive. It's about really getting those deep-rooted things cleared out of you.
So true. And I'm so glad you brought up the water, because I'm going to talk about a meditation that you spoke and I saw you have to add that you can connect with the water on your land. So she talks about how she meditates, sit, stand, find a tree, be barefoot. If you have water and you are comfortable with it, put your feet in, put your hands in, whatever you want to do, and close your eyes. You are an electrical body. The earth is an electrical body. And you may feel things, you may hear things, you may know things. It is all about what is allowed at that time. It's not going to show you things that need to be cleared that are horrific. If you're there for just beginning, it's going to show you what you can handle, which is a beautiful thing. So the land will know what you can handle and what can you be shown. If you have a piece of jewelry or a crystal that means something to you, you know, put yourself in a bubble, give a protections bubble around you, and set clear intentions of why you want to connect to the land, what you are doing. And, you know, start breathing. Talk to the trees, talk to the land that you're on, talk to the rock. What is it going to tell you? Imagine a pillar of bright light coming through your crown, and imagine that white light passing through your whole system. And as you breathe out, let the stuff that isn't serving you and the earth out through your breath. And it's that simple. You don't need to complicate it. You don't need these extremely complicated meditations that people make. Silence is the most beautiful meditation that you can give. And if you get a thought and it's not from the land, release it and say, thank you. I will deal with you later, until you can connect with what, you know, magical creatures are there, what the earth has to say, what the land wants to tell you, the history, the healing that it needs. We don't have to complicate things. I know everybody thinks that the healing journey is a complicated journey, but it really is not. It is simple. And the more you meditate and the more you take time for you and the land and just read the energies, you will be shown what you need to be shown. I did a beautiful meditation a couple of days ago where I didn't see much. Well, I did see something, but I didn't get like any, you know, like there was just love. I saw this beautiful 50-foot angel, and it was like a mirror image of itself. And it was just light streaks coming down of rainbows. There was really no face to it, but I knew it was an angel just because of the love that it held in its heart. And it's the love that is being held at all times from all angels for us, knowing that we are doing a big mission at all times being here. And while we may get wrapped up in the silly things of the drama, they are always holding space for us at all times, for when we want to step away and go to that happy place and tap into those energies.
One of the other things I wanted to bring up is going into nature is a consistency thing. So when you are looking for maybe some healing or reconnection and grounding, be consistent with that practice, and then you will see that healing continue to be amplified. Going out in nature once, yeah, it'll be great, but going out in nature consistently, that is where you are allowing that healing energy into you. And when you are out there, imagine it coming in to every cell in your body. Like Dawn said, have that energy light connecting you to earth and allow it to be that give and receive conduit, and allow the stagnant energy in yourself to go into the earth and kind of rebirth that energy into kind of that clear version of yourself. So believe. If you don't believe it's going to help you, it's not going to, it will help you, but it won't be the same effect. So when you go in with that belief that the magical creatures are there to help, that trees can actually talk to you, once you start believing that and having that sense of wonder and trust, that's where you really connect in, I think, at a more profound level. I also want to extend that conversation about traveling. When we travel, yes, we all come to this earth with different levels of intuitive abilities, healing energies, and know that when you do go to these areas, you're going for a purpose. Like what I go to an area and what I'm seeing or helping heal can be different than what Dawn is doing. It's still a collective healing energy that is assisting that area. Know that when we're in that vibration where we've done healing ourselves and we go to these different places, it allows your connection to those places from your previous lives. So maybe you'll get some activations by going to a place that is healing for you on a soul level because you've been there before. You were meant to go there. So when you intuitively get those nudges that, hey, I really want to go, maybe it's overseas, maybe it's just a few hour drive away from where you're living, follow those nudges. And it doesn't have to be this big planned event. Maybe you know when you're going and when you're coming home, maybe that's the parameters. But I think when you're in that sense of wonderment of allowing things to happen. I know we go to a lot of places that, are kind of sightseeing places. We want to make sure we get certain things done. That's great because yes, you are working within a time constraint of being there for only a dedicated amount of time. But when you go to those places, be still, really connect to the energy of what that place is. Don't necessarily believe or maybe have some heart discernment over the history that you're being told that area has, but trust what information you're getting about that area. Because if you've been there in a past life, then your connection to that land is going to be different than maybe what story is being told of why you're there. And that's why I think we're seeing so much history being rewritten, because the real information is coming through when we do aura hypnosis sessions and the regression part of the session. We're going and finding different information about all of these areas. So really be open to what an area has to offer and what information, and listen to what messages you might be getting for that particular area, because know that you're there for a reason. And you might not even realize the reason could be a year later. I know when we were moving, and I knew it was right because the timing, everything happened really quick. I didn't know why I was coming to the area that I'm living at now. It's a lake community. I just knew I didn't want to be in a city or anything like that. That didn't feel right. It had to be closer to nature. And as it turned out, I was here to help heal the land. It's important when you feel drawn to move somewhere that it could be for a reason you have no idea about. This land that surrounds the lake was indigenous land. I moved here just after we got certified in Mount Shasta. And then after the certification, we did a home clearing. So one of the other practitioners worked with me to do a home clearing and land clearing. So that's one of the services that we offer. So you can check out our embracethespiritual.com website to connect with Dawn or I for doing any of these services. But it was so profound. It helped me understand why I needed to be here. So there was lots of malevolent, so not good, not sure what that word is, ships that were using the lake as a portal. And lots of people have talked about, seeing UFOs and whatnot in the skies around the area. Well, they were using it for negative purposes, we'll say. And there was also a curse put on the land by the indigenous, like we're talking going back hundreds and hundreds of years. I can't remember the exact time frame, but there was beings that were walking around spying on people in this area. So we were able to remove that curse off the land, help heal it. And as part of the session, the practitioner that I was working with saw one of the native chiefs on his horse at the edge of the lake, and he was so grateful because they didn't have the tools at the time to know how to get rid of these ships that were using the lake as a portal and all these negative beings that would come as a result. And he was so grateful that finally in this time and space, someone was able to help clear the land and raise the vibration of the energy that is surrounding this lake. So it was so profound. And as I'm talking and recording, it's 11:11 a.m. So it's 1:11 for dawn. So that's amazing. And what better synchronicity to know that we're in the right place at the right time, sharing the messages we're meant to share, being open to those magical things that can happen by just listening to your intuition. I just knew I had to be here, didn't know why, and I figured out why. And it was such an incredible feeling to know how much we helped heal the history of the land, because as we've shared before, time is not linear. So those healing things that happened rippled through all time and space. And that's why that chief on his horse was able to present himself to say thank you for doing that work.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. We are meant to be where we are meant to be at all times, even if we don't feel like we're meant to be there. So we're talking about the spiritual and the things that we can do to help heal it that way. She talks about how exposing the earth to sunlight by turning the soil is akin to ripping the skin off the human body. That is like, it just hurts my heart that we are doing that. I didn't even realize, because I thought my grandfather tilled, I tilled, and then I heard about regenerative gardening and how it is actually healing the soil. Did you know that too much oxygen to a plant can actually kill it? I didn't. I was unaware. But that's how they conventionally garden all the stuff out that you buy at the grocery store. We are over-oxygenating the plant, and that is why crops are not doing that great. We're also disrupting the bacteria and the mycelium. In 1 gram of soil, there are 4 billion bacteria that need to live there, that are living symbiotically with the plants, that help them grow, that help nourish them, that give them the nutrients that they need. But we have disrupted that system so much, it's not happening. Our food is not as nutritious as it was before. I mean, I don't even think we're getting half the nutrients that we used to, because we have raped the land so much. I have started soil blocking, which is you take soil, I mix it with vermicompost for my worms that eat my veggies that we don't use. And I actually use wool, which is a great holder of moisture. And this year, as my first year trying those 3 things together and using this stainless steel little block system that you make little blocks for, it actually keeps the roots spiraling around the block because there's air barriers. They don't want to go where there's no moisture, so they stay within the block. And I've never heard about it, but I started last year. It worked great. Unfortunately, my husband and I flipped we had these really poor plastic trays, and we thought it was safe to put it out, but we had a really hard freeze and we just couldn't keep the temperature. So we decided to bring stuff in, and I went to go grab a tray and the back tray flipped over and hit the house. So if you're going to do this, I highly recommend fiberglass trays. I bought them this year. They were a little more expensive, but I figured these are going to last for generations instead of the plastic trays, which are going to break down from just use, and they're flimsier. They're not made well, and you can't get them heavy duty. So I highly recommend looking into soil blocking, and you really don't need to make that much room to plant. You put wool in, you put some vermicompost when you plant, when you finally get down to it, and then you cover it with wood chip. Or if you're like my village grinds the trees and stuff, we have a place we can go and just they're bigger than wood chips, but it still works as good. And it breaks down and it feeds the nutrients to the soil, which is going to be healthier than the stuff that you find from the grocery stores.
I think it's important that you brought up about the over-oxygenating, because as a follow-up to some of the things that we talked about in Awakening Your Soul, is the negative agenda that's out there right now suggesting that carbon dioxide is bad. It's not. That's what plants need for their survival and produce oxygen for our survival. So when these agendas are coming out about carbon dioxide being bad, well, if they try to remove them, as Dawn said, it's killing the plants. Well, guess what? Follow the money. If you kill the plants, then you need to replace it with something else. If we can't eat the natural plants, that's where they're trying to impose all of these synthetic food production. So just be really, really heart discerning on these messages that they're trying to say things are bad. And yet look at this information that's coming out about that Dawn said tilling's been bad. It's like, taking a fork and scratching your skin. Like that doesn't feel very good. So how is that good for Mother Earth? But we were taught that. So that, again, that's some of the programming that has been instilled into us, that we just follow the practices generation after generation until someone starts saying, is that really the right thing to do? And digging with your hands, even compared to a shovel, this metal thing being shoved into the earth, and using the wood chips and making your own compost. All of these things are adding the natural kind of ingredients, I guess, back into the earth. This is something that's newer to me. Dawn's been doing this kind of work with the earth for a long time. This is newer for me. I haven't been one of those people that composts and works with the land, and that's okay. I know what I know, and growing up, that wasn't something that we had a big garden and stuff like that. So it's just the nature of how I grew up. Doesn't mean you can't appreciate and still do those things today. We can all make changes. Even small changes are changes that are going to help. As we were saying, that, the earth lives and breathes like us. So if we were to think about what we're doing on us, would we do that to the earth? So it's that awareness and respect for Mother Earth, for Gaia. Treat her gently. Yes, she's big. She's got lots of strong structures, but she's still gentle at her core, at her heart. She still hurts no different than us, right? She cries like we do when she can see what's happening. But unless we're there to listen on how to help her heal, things won't change. We're the change. Be the change.
So you're probably asking yourself, what can I do? It's all about intention. And she gives designs of using sacred shapes, as she calls them, and I call them, to incorporate in your landscape. She gives her design that she used for the Chelsea Grammar Show that won her the ribbon of that year. It's beautiful. I loved it. My husband thought, it's okay. It was creating a sacred space. It's using trees and natural plants that will flourish together. And the trees are important because we have desecrated our lands. How many trees do you have on your land? I have, now that I planted some, I have 2 big ones that have been here for a long time. And I also have the 4 to 5, you're hoping one makes it, fruit trees that we have planted. But she talks about the shapes that you can use to bring the energy back, spirals, clearing out the curses on your land. She says all it takes is the power of intention. Once if you realize that, she gives an example of a curse on a land that she was working with, and it was just all about intention of clearing out, telling the land it's not needed anymore. And she talks about the magic of biodynamic agriculture. And she says that the only reason it works is because they are putting the power of intention behind it. It's using a lot of you have a calf's skull that you bury on a certain day and this and that, creating sacred rituals. You don't have to go that far or be that, I'm hearing, rigid in your healing of the earth, but creating magical practices when you garden, when you plant plants, asking the fairies to take care of what you are planting and putting in the earth, asking the dragons to connect with your trees. There's so many things that we can do to add to the magic of the land. We just haven't thought about it because we haven't been told that we can do it. We're bringing the power back to ourselves. We're going to give it to the earth so that she can heal on so many levels that it's going to be beautiful.
As always, this podcast, we go with the flow. We're listening to divine timing of what we are meant to share, when we are meant to share it. And over the last couple seasons, we've done 13 episodes, and all of a sudden we're like, guess what? Awakening the Earth is our wrap up for season 3.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure bringing you the information that we have. I'm grateful for each and every one of you that has listened to our podcast. We love and appreciate you all. From my heart to yours, I'm looking forward to many seasons to come. Don't lose hope. We're working on a lot energetically for us, for the collective, and we just need to take some time to do some bigger work that we cannot talk about at this moment in time and space. Listen to our old episodes. They always speak true to your heart at all times. I love you with all that I am.
And be sure to tune into our social media. We'll keep you up to date on when season 4 will be kicking off, because we will have so much to share, and we will also be bringing on, as a regular episode, special guests. We had so much fun bringing in the special guests that we've already talked to this season, and we want to share more. There's so much collective knowledge that we are just excited for. So stay tuned for season 4. We'll announce when that's happening. We're going with the flow, but we are coming back. Stick with us. We love you infinitely. Follow, subscribe, and share Embrace the Spiritual podcast on all streaming services, including YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Go to embracethespiritual.com for bonus content and a list of upcoming episodes. To book an aura regression, raw Reiki, or Akashic reading with Dawn, go to her website, alchemy-sacredsound.com. And to book an aura regression, raw Reiki, Akashic reading, or to do a home or pet clearing, visit Michelle on her website at energeticembrace.com.
With infinite love and gratitude, thank you for joining us.